Thank you. Welcome to the Wareham Conservation Commission meeting of Wednesday, September 18th, 2019. Mr. Baptiste, the roll call, please.
Members present, David Hall, Mary Taggett, myself, Ken Baptiste, Chair Sandy Slavin, Jim Smith, and Agent David Pichette.
Thank you. We have continued hearings. The South Coast Hospital Group has requested a continuance until 10/2. I will need a motion, please.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, is continued until October 2nd. Buzzards Bay Coalition has requested a continuance until 10/2. These are the floats off of in Onset Harbor. The requested continuance.
So moved.
I have a motion, I have a second. It's continued in 10/2. The next hearing is Michael, please pronounce that for me, Solomundo. If you are here, please come forward and speak to the project. I don't see anybody.
That was a project that Brian was doing. I don't think it was... Yeah, Brian was handling that, so I think that's pretty much squared away. I don't know if you want to come up, I don't know if you know anything about it, but...
Bill Madden from GAF, here for Mike Solomondo. As far as I've been informed by Brian, there was an issue with the wetland flagging, and we had it flagged, submitted, I think it was submitted to Dave, and he must have a report on that.
Yeah. Is that a new one?
No.
Okay, so Mr. Bichette, do you want to talk to this? Yeah, the one we have. You can put it back in your...
This project site is at 11 Elizabeth Street in the Rose Point area, and the project involves the construction of a single-family dwelling, the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland, and also within a coastal flood zone. A 28 by 40-foot dwelling with attached 24 by 24-foot garage is proposed, approximately 55 feet to the edge of the wetland, and within flood zone AE elevation 14. The wetland line was checked, and there were some adjustments and additions made to the line, so that is reflected in the revised plan that you have in front of you. There is going to be a wetland alteration on this project and a replication area proposed. So there's 2,700 square feet of wetland to be altered to be able to access the lot. And there's a replication area of 3,190 square feet proposed to account for that. We do have a DEP file number for the project. Hay bales and silt fence are going to be installed between the work area and the resource area, as shown on the plan. So at this time, I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions with the standard conditions, and also added conditions for dewatering in case that's necessary, and conditions relative to the replication area.
Bill, anything to add?
No, I don't.
Any questions on the board?
Nope.
No.
No.
Anybody in the audience who'd like to speak for or against this project? Seeing none? I need a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. The hearing is closed. What is the wish of the board?
Motion to grant with the normal stipulations, with the added additional stipulations for dewatering, and the agent's comments on the wetlands replication.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained. Will you let Brian know not to start anything until he hears from Dave on it?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next hearing is Scott Ballenden.
Blagden.
Blagden. Why can't I say that? They would request to have this continued until October 2nd. I need a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. It's continued until October 2nd. The next hearing is the Gateway Motors of Wareham. If you could come forward and identify yourself.
Hi, Joseph Sorrow from Gateway Motors.
Bill Madden from GAF on behalf of Gateway Motors.
Thank you. We have a few pieces of paper to clear up here, and we'll be right with you.
I'm submitting two full-size copies of the revised plan based
you.
on the previous meeting, and the half sizes for you folks.
No, Mr. Smith? Okay, they've identified themselves, now it's your turn.
Very good. The project site is at 379 Main Street, and the project involves the removal of an existing building, the placement of crushed stone in that location, the installation of underground utilities and fencing within a coastal flood zone, within the buffer zone to wetlands, and also within the riverfront area of the Wankinko River. The existing 20 by 40-foot shed structure was to be removed from the site and crushed stone installed in that area. That structure was approximately 45 feet from the edge of the wetland. The existing open area is proposed to be used, or was originally proposed to be used as a car dealership. Part of the notice of intent also proposes to clear land within a perimeter of the fencing that was previously approved, and this work would be partially within the 50-foot no-activity zone. At the last meeting, I had mentioned that the wetland boundary shown on the plan was not a delineated wetland, but just depicted from a database layer from the internet, and we had asked for that to be flagged. I did not get any notification that that work had been done, so I have not reviewed any wetland flags at the site. We're just getting a revised plan at this moment, again, which I haven't seen yet, so maybe Bill can elaborate on that. I also did notice that work had started down at the site already, so the building has been removed, and it looks like vegetation has already been altered within the area that we're discussing. So I'll let Bill address that.
Okay, the building that was removed was that abandoned building at the rear of the site, which was approved to be removed under negative determination by the commission originally. The fence that was being installed was also approved to be installed as under that same filed negative determination of applicability. The work that took place there was to install the fence. So there was an area that was 4 feet wide, the length of the fence that was mowed for the purpose of rolling out the fence, allowing the equipment to get into place, auger the holes, and place the fence posts in the ground, things like that. There was one small pile of fill that was on the site that had to be pulled back to some degree so that the fence would be placed on the level ground as opposed to rising up over the top of the fill pile and what have you. So that work that you see that has down there had been previously approved by the commission to allow it to be done. What this notice of intent that we filed for was for clearing of the area between the recycled asphalt product and the property line adjacent to the railroad bed. So we were required to come back and have the wetlands flagged because we used the Mass GIS data layer for the wetlands, and we hired Brad Holmes from ERC to come in there and flag the wetlands, which he did do. I think there's a note on the plan that stated when he did that. He did it, I think, last Thursday or so. So the flagging stations that are shown on the off-site wetland area to the north of the property indicated by flags, I think it's B1 through B4, extend laterally about 6 feet away from the wetland line that Mass DEP depicted on their data layer. In a similar fashion, the wetland boundary to the east of the site indicated as A1 through A11. That flag line was also put out by Brad, and you can see the original line that was also taken from Mass DEP essentially follows that line. So the accuracy of the Mass DEP data source information, at least in my opinion, should be considered as reasonably accurate. However, we were required at the last meeting to flag it, so we did that. It results in about 470 additional square feet of buffer zone that we're looking to clear in the area of the outlet structure that was constructed when Franconia fuel was cleaned up. That's the head wall that's shown. There's a gasoline trap there. The commission issued an order of conditions on that. I have a copy of it. I forget when it was, in the late 80s or 90s. They issued a certificate of compliance for that work, and, well, they issued a certificate of compliance for the work that was done, and I might add that it was not what was proposed in the notice of intent. And there's also a drainage area that, the thing that we're here for is to clear the drainage area that's between the recycled asphalt product and the newly installed chain link fence. So you can see by the contours on the plan that there is a slight depression there, and that is the drainage area that's on the site. The deed that was issued, the deed for the property, it's in book 38-167, page 218, talks about the requirement of the landowner to provide a drainage way of unprescribed width or length, depth, or any of that to conduct drainage and convey drainage from the north and the south to that culvert. That's that box culvert that's shown at the upper, on the northeast corner of the site. So what this project is really just removing all the unwanted vegetation in the drainage basin so that it can function reasonably. And that's pretty much it. As I said, the building was previously authorized, as was the installation of the fence. And that's all the work that has taken place down at the site. If any of you have the opportunity to get down there, the applicant should be commended for the work that he did. It was just, it's a total mess in that corner, and perhaps when the wetland line gets inspected, you can evaluate that wetland to the north and perhaps direct the property owner to do what might be necessary to remove the unwanted debris that's in the not so pristine wetland resource area, and, maybe clean up the mess that's out there. We think this is an enhancement to the property and to the wetlands.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
No, I have none.
No.
I did have an opportunity to drive by there as the previous owner was moving his cars thereabouts. How much of that land inside the 50-foot no-work zone has already been cleared?
Just a 4-foot path for the fence.
Just so that if I look at that area now, I don't see any vegetation between me and the fence in that
No.
50-foot.
You will see vegetation between you and the fence.
I can see the fence right where all that dirt was piled up.
Well, the fence, that's because the grass the material that we're looking to remove consists of predominantly weeds that are about
So it's
waist
not the
high.
high, okay, so it's not the,
The trees that you see back there are actually on the, within the railroad right-of-way,
okay.
although the plan does indicate they're somewhat of a tree line.
So we're looking at only removing a very small portion of vegetation within this 50-foot no-work zone, of which some of it has already been disturbed, in
Well,
order
it's
to put in the,
actually-
in order to put in the fence and take the building out.
Well, the only work in the 50-foot no-activity zone is the 800 square feet in the northeast corner of the site. All the rest of the work that we're proposing to do on the site is within the 100-foot buffer zone.
Yes, totally understand, but I'm looking at that one little corner.
Yep.
It's already been disturbed because of the fencing going in and the building being removed.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody in the audience want to speak for or against this project? I'm seeing none. Anybody want to give me a motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close?
I have a motion to close the hearing. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. The hearing is closed.
Roll over this.
What would the board like to do now?
Motion to grant, I guess, with the, so that they can clean up the mess that's there.
Okay, this is an NOI, so standard order of conditions?
Mm-hmm.
I believe I have a motion to close the hearing and we've closed the hearing to issue a standard order of conditions for this particular project. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Before you finish anything, can you see Mr. Pichette before you start for the paperwork?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's 7:15, we can start our hearings. Who has the paperwork? Mr. Smith, please.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. Public hearing will be held in room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, on Wednesday, September 18th, 2019, at 7:15 PM. On the request for determination of applicability for Bloom Energy, care of Justin Adams, care of All Points Technology Corporation, PC, 3 Saddlebrook Drive, Killingworth, Connecticut, 06419, to install a fuel cell energy generation facility located at Assessors Map 12, Lot C, 2991 Cranberry Highway, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Please identify yourself.
Good evening, folks. My name is Dean Gustafson. I'm a senior wetland scientist with All Points Technology on behalf of Bloom Energy for the proposed facility at 2991 Cranberry Highway. It's at the rear of the Stop and Shop facility. Here tonight on my left, your right, is Justin Adams, lead permitting specialist for Bloom Energy.
Okay, thank you. Do you have the green cards?
I do.
This up the way. Find your friend here.
Yeah.
And Mr. Pichette will speak to the project.
The project site is at 2991 Cranberry Highway, and this is behind the Stop and Shop at this location. A 250 kilowatt fuel cell generation facility is proposed behind the building, and this is in the buffer zone to wetlands that exist behind that area. A 230-square-foot area on the existing pavement behind the building would be used to place the energy generation structures, which would provide 250 kilowatts of power to the store. A 6 by 44-foot concrete pad would be constructed up against the building on the existing paved area. And this would be approximately 40 feet from the edge of the wetland. Bollards would be installed in the pavement around the structure to prevent vehicles from hitting it. Erosion control would be placed around the work area during construction. So I would recommend the issuance of a negative determination number 3 for the project.
Just wondering where that was.
Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Just briefly, I mean, we did evaluate potential for any wetland resource impacts with this project. As David had indicated, the project is located within an existing paved area. We are about 40 feet away from wetland resources further to the south, but we do have appropriate erosion control measures, compost filter stock, as well as inlet protection on a couple of nearby catch basins. So we feel the project will adequately protect nearby wetland resources and will not result in an adverse impact to those resources.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
How does it work? How does it generate the electricity?
The fuel cell itself. So the fuel cell is powered by natural gas. The natural gas passes through the fuel cell. There's no combustion that occurs. There's an electrochemical reaction which occurs within the fuel cell. Generates electricity. Will replace the base load power demand of the building. It's clean, reliable, far fewer emissions than standard electrical generation.
Any other questions?
No.
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak for or against this project? Yes, please come forward and identify yourself.
I'm Bill Madden. I'm representing Starbuck Realty Trust, 266 Main Street in Wareham. And just had a question. I understand that this is within 40 feet of a wetland boundary.
Yes,
Is this a commercial project?
yes,
Isn't there a 50-foot no activity
yes.
zone?
But it's already, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, it is, but there's existing altered area. They're on pavement, and so therefore, under the bylaw, you're allowed to reutilize the already altered area. So the whole thing is paved already.
Okay, I haven't looked at the plan, so I
Yes.
didn't know that. Okay.
It's basically when you drive around the whole mall or shopping
Backside.
plaza, it's within that road that goes around the back of it, basically.
And are these battery cells?
No, they're not batteries. They generate power. The natural gas passes through it. There's nothing stored. There's no liquids or gas stored within it. So if it were to shut down, the gas would be shut off immediately. The contents within it are essentially inert. It's water and a solid oxide membrane that
Is fire protection required for the,
not for an exterior installation. The NFPA code is 853, and
Yep,
there's
so-
no.
Is there anything for us?
well,
Yeah.
the reason I asked about the fire protection is if water was needed to be extended out to that structure, may require an activity that could be subject to conservation. So that was the purpose of the question.
Thank you,
But other than that, no, I have no further questions.
thank you. Anybody else? I'm seeing none. What would the board like us to do?
Motion to close.
I have a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. The hearing is closed.
Motion to grant and a negative 3?
Yes.
I have a motion.
Second?
I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. Before you start the work, see Mr. Bichette for the paperwork, okay?
Will do. Great, thank you, folks.
What's that?
Okey dokey.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Notice the public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, on Wednesday, September 18, 2019, at 7:15 p.m. On the request for determination of applicability for Kenneth Neves, 91 Glen Charlie Road, East Wareham, Massachusetts, to pave driveway, create small pad for jacuzzi and sand for beach located on Assessors Map 129B, Lot 527,
We can.
91 Glen Charlie Road, East Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Please come forward and identify yourselves.
Ken Neves.
And we have the green cards? Do you have the green cards?
What are those? Oh, what are those?
Notice to the abutters.
Yes, I do.
Made a hot tub pad. Made a hot tub pad. There's a neighborhood.
I know they're on the kitchen table, right?
Maybe. I'm sorry. I know I have the one notice here that she's here, and the other one is in New Hampshire. I have both notices, though, but let me check in this other one. I should have them. I think when I switched the envelopes, I didn't pull those out, but I have both notices. I
Okay,
could-
we will have to continue the hearing until we receive those, but we will take comments and discussions now, but we
Can I
can't.
go get them? I'm only quickly, I can get them right away. I have them right at my
Yes,
house.
then we'll be, if the board approves, we can table you until you come back.
It'll only take me about 10 or 15
Okay,
minutes tops.
so
Motion to
I have a
table?
motion to table.
Second.
I have a second, all in favor? Aye, opposed, abstained. You're tabled until you return.
I'll be right back. Thank you very much.
Okay, next one, please.
Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaws, Division 6, a public hearing will be held in room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts, on Wednesday, September 18, 2019, at 7:15 p.m. On the request for determination of applicability for William Sibilia, Paradigmatic Innovation Construction Company, Post Office Box 815, West Wareham, Massachusetts,
About the whole
to
package.
remove and replace a deck, landing, and steps located at Assessors Map 6, Lot 55, 79 Jefferson Shore Road, Wareham, Massachusetts.
I'll be right back. Thank you.
Thank you. Please come forward and identify yourselves. Do we have? Here. Nope. Yes, do you have your green cards?
I do. Keith Demetric, Innovation Construction.
I'm William Sibilia.
Thank you. Mr. Bichette will speak to the project.
This project site is at 79 Jefferson Shores Road, and the project involves the construction of a deck in the buffer zone to a coastal bank. An 11 by 38-foot deck is proposed, and this is approximately 7 feet from the top of the coastal bank at this site. The deck is being built over an existing patio that currently occupies this area. So again, even though it's within the 30-foot no activity zone, there is an existing patio where this deck is proposed. 8 sonotube footings would be installed to support the deck. All the work would be done by hand. There's no grade changes proposed. Silt fence would be installed between the work and the resource area, so I would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 3.
Yes, is there any comments you'd like to make on the project?
Nope.
Questions on the board?
No.
I did go out there to look at the project, and all I got were dog barks. I must have disturbed, I couldn't get down there to see the site at all. I didn't want to go through your fences to get down there, but I tried to look at it, but I must not have caught anybody at home. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak for or against this project? I'm seeing none.
Motion to close?
I have a motion to close.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed.
Motion for a -3?
I have a motion for a -3.
Second.
Second. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained. You have your project. See Mr. Pichette before you start any of the work.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Make sure.
Thank you,
Okay.
Board. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held at Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts, on Wednesday, September 18, 2019, at 7:15 p.m. And the notice intent for Raymond and Donna Pelletier Realty Trust, care of GAF Engineering, 266 Main Street, Wareham, Massachusetts, to construct an addition patio, walkway grading, and a new fence located on Assessors Map 4, Lot 30, 6 Rollins Way, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Green cards, you got it?
I do. I'm just trying to make sure I give you the correct.
Yeah, don't get 6 and 8 mixed up. And off.
This one, which number is this one? Is
Six.
this is 6? Okay.
And as a side note, Anthony, thank you for joining the garden club. Do you have the paperwork?
They do. We don't. We do now.
We've got green cards. Nope, they've got a set, we got a set.
Yep.
So, you've identified, you identified, did I ask you to
I don't know,
identify yourself?
I'm Bill Madden from GAF.
I'm Anthony Frangiatis. I'm the architect working on the project.
If I've already asked you, I apologize for asking again, but I forgot. Okay, Mr. Bichette will speak to the project.
The project site is at 6 Rollins Way off of Robinwood Road, and the project involves the construction of an addition in the buffer zone to a coastal bank and within a coastal flood zone. A 14 by 20-foot addition is proposed, approximately 85 feet from the top of the coastal bank and within flood zone AE elevation 16. Also, a 12 by 20-foot covered patio and walk is proposed, and this is about 60 feet from the edge of the wetland. There's no grade changes proposed. Silt fence is proposed between the work and the resource area. We do have a DEP file number for the project, so I would recommend the approval with the standard conditions for the project.
Anything to add?
No, not at this time.
Are you making that at this time? Any questions on the board?
Nope.
No.
Now, you're also removing that whole line of trees?
I think they're arborvitaes. that
Yes.
are-
They're so beautiful. They're so all grown together. Now, to be cleared, when we give you a standard order of conditions, it does say low nitrogen, slow reducing, so that green grass all the way down to the water's edge will now get a very low nitrogen feeding. I just wanted to make sure you didn't lose it in the standard order of conditions, that there isn't what's that big, soft grass.
I thought the project was really just a patio.
Yes, still disturbing the land. You got order of conditions for the whole kit and caboodle.
We understand.
Okay, so really you are going to be really attaching it to the next, in number, to 8? I mean, is it going to be a pass-through family?
Yes.
Is that why this is being done, to make it easy access?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak to for or against this project? I'm seeing none.
Motion to close.
I have a motion to close. Thank you. I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. The hearing is closed.
Motion to grant standard stipulations.
I have a motion to grant the standard stipulations. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Thank you. Before you start any work, see Dave to get the paperwork completed, okay? Mr. Smith, the next one, please.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. Public hearing will be held in room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Mary Road, Wareham, Massachusetts, on Wednesday, September 18th, 2019, at 7:15. On the notice of intent for Andrew and Corey Pelletier, care of GAF Engineering, 266 Main Street, Wareham, Massachusetts, to raise an existing dwelling and construct a new dwelling with a pool and patio, utilities, sewage disposal system, and associated grading and landscaping located on Assessor's Map, Lot 29, 8 Rollins Way, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Okay. For the record, please, your names.
I'm Bill Madden from GAF Engineering.
Anthony Frangiotis, the architect on the project.
Thank you. Mr. Bichette will read to the project. I got it. We got it, yeah.
This project site is right next door at 8 Rollins Way off Robinwood Road. And this project involves the demolition of an existing dwelling and the reconstruction of a new dwelling, new septic system, in-ground pool, and associated utilities. And this is in the buffer zone to a coastal bank and within coastal flood zone AE elevation 16. The existing dwelling is to be removed and a new 30 by 50-foot dwelling is proposed. And this would be approximately 20 feet from the top of the coastal bank. The existing dwelling is already within this location, so the new dwelling is utilizing the previously occupied space. Also proposed is a 14 by 26-foot in-ground pool with surrounding patio. And this also would be approximately 32 feet from the top of the coastal bank. The proposed septic system is under the driveway. Is that what I'm seeing? That it's going to be designed to be able to be driven on? Yeah. There's really no grade changes proposed. The only other question I had was whether or not you think dewatering is going to be needed to put the pool in, depending on how deep that has to be excavated. If so, then I would just recommend the commission include conditions to address dewatering. We did get a DEP file number for the project. Hay bales and silt fence are being proposed between the work and the resource area as shown on the plan. So I would recommend the approval of the project with the normal conditions, added conditions for dewatering, and also that the pool not be discharged or drained into the beach or marsh.
Thank you. Anything you'd like to add at this time?
No, not at this time.
Any questions on the board?
Out of curiosity, how deep is the pool?
It has an 8-foot deep end to it, so.
Anybody else?
No.
What do you plan to do with the grass?
Well, I
It
think,
certainly, it looks very natural. It isn't wicked green.
I'm not sure, I think if the commission so wishes to include a condition about slow release,
That's part of our standard.
nitrogen fertilizer, there's no
Yeah.
objection to that.
It's our standard. And the pool, when drained, will not be discharged to the local area. You will have it pumped out and the water would be removed, correct? I did visit the site. I just love that big pile of invasives that are on the back porch.
In
I
the,
couldn't
in the
even
house?
see the house with all the bittersweet that
No.
was there. Okay. Anybody in the audience would like to speak for or against this project? I'm seeing none. I have a motion to close.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed.
Yeah, quite arranged.
Motion to grant, the stipulations about dewatering if needed, and no discharge of the pool water, wastewater into the marsh.
I have it, thank you, I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Thank you,
Thank you very much.
and see Mr. Bichette before you start to work.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
It took me a while to find Roland's Way.
It's not easy.
Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held in room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, on Wednesday, September 18, 2019, at 7:15 p.m. On the notice of intent for Jeffrey and Brandon, I'm
Nope.
going to murder this.
Krasnowski?
Krasnowski, thank you. Care of JAF Engineering Incorporated, 266 Main Street, Wareham, Massachusetts, for the reconstruction of an existing dwelling, including a second floor, expand garage and basement, and construct a deck located in Assessors Map 5, Lot C7, LC7, 12 Pine Tree Drive, Buzzards Bay, Massachusetts.
Thank you. We have green cards, and please identify yourself for the record.
For the record, Madam Chair, I'm Bob Rogers with GAF Engineering, representing Jeff Krasnowski, who's with me this evening.
Jeff Krasnowski.
Thank you. Bichette will read to the project.
Okay, the project is at 12 Pine Tree Drive, and the project involves the demolition of an existing dwelling and the reconstruction of a new dwelling in the same general location as the existing. And this is within a coastal bank, within the buffer zone to salt marsh, and within a coastal flood zone. The existing 24 by 65-foot house is to be removed, and a new 24 by 70-foot dwelling and attached garage are proposed in the same general location, which is partially within the existing coastal bank and flood zone, Zone AE elevation 15, and approximately 60 feet from the salt marsh. A deck is also proposed beyond the original footprint, further towards the salt marsh, approximately 45 feet to the marsh. Again, the site is actually on a coastal bank, and so I would recommend no further work to be extended on to the coastal bank beyond the footprint. I also had a question about whether or not this project has to go or has already gone before the zoning board, and if not, has an application been submitted for that?
Right, we were before the zoning board a couple of weeks ago, I think.
Okay, so that's already been addressed.
If not sooner than that. But yes, the ZBA did vote to grant the special permit for the reconstruction of the house.
Okay.
So that we're set with them.
There's really no grade changes proposed on the project. We did get a DEP file number, but at this time I would recommend a continuance for revised plan in terms of the expansion for the deck area.
Comments, please.
Yes, so, obviously, this is a very, valuable piece of property. Mr. Krasnowski has improved the property substantially with the reconstruction of the dock and the float for boating. He's had a brand-new, Title V compliant septic system constructed between the resource area and the house in the backyard. So all of that work is closer to the water than what Dave is pointing out in terms of the deck. So it's a substantial investment to totally reconstruct this house. It's just a single story now, and so it would be a two-story home, and so that deck is a pretty important amenity to the new house. I think there's maybe a total of 8 columns, eight sonotubes. So, I think it's approximately 8 square feet of alteration to support that deck. There may be other means of cantilevering it or reducing a couple of those columns, but we think that's an extremely important amenity to the home, with really no negative impact on the coastal bank or the resource area. It is formal lawn, at this point, and there's not going to be any kind of a patio underneath or any. It's really to the minimum for a support system for that deck that we can get. We would just ask for the sense of the commission before we agree to a continuance. Is 8 square feet for 8 columns, is that a concern for the commission?
Well, to speak to that, the commission would regard the whole deck area, not just the columns. So it's the area of the deck that's being occupied, but again, that's up to the commission to decide on. But in any of these projects, we're not just looking at the actual footing touching the ground, we're looking at the whole square footage of a new structure within a given resource area or buffer zone, so.
Well, it's a walkout basement, and so the first floor deck is a first floor deck that's, 12 feet up.
Right.
So that's certainly no impact at all to the coastal bank or the flood zone. We don't see it as any kind of an increase in potential for storm damage. It's not a coastal bank. That portion of the coastal bank isn't providing sediment to the beach, and it was substantially more work which was permitted for both the dock and the septic system upgrade. So on the scale of things, we don't see the harm in it.
Any questions on the board?
I have none.
So when you, this septic's already was put in, you said?
Yes, sir, yes.
So there's significant disturbance there already, from putting the septic in, right?
It's mostly below grade, but there are access covers to grade that are, 24-inch diameter access covers.
But none of it can be seen. Right now, there's just lawn and grass over the top of it, correct?
Well-
I walked the site and I just don't remember seeing,
They may be 6 inches below grade.
but it's something that if I walked it, I didn't notice.
Did you were able to walk around in the back and take a look?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Because one of the other issues David brought up was the condition of the lawn, and so, again, Mr. Krasnowski is willing to abide by the standard condition of a minimal
Well,
amount
of course,
of
grass was one of
fertilizer.
my notes, yes,
Right.
right down to the high water mark. Any questions on the board, any more?
Is the space under the deck being utilized in any way?
You could put lawn chairs under there, but there's not going to be any new different surface treatment.
But how will you keep the grass growing under the deck with all that shade?
Well, I find grass likes a healthy amount of shade. I always have to move my picnic table around to mow under it because the grass is, 3 times higher than what's getting direct sun. But, we're not proposing any change in the grade. And, you know, if he doesn't have to mow under there so much, then I don't think that's going to be an issue.
Your turn. Any comment?
No, that was going to be my question, if David was making issue about the shading. Okay.
Is there anybody who'd like to comment for or against this project? Do you want a discussion before we close the hearing? Anybody? The recommendation is that the deck not be allowed or be redesigned. I believe that was the comment, right?
Yes.
What, how could that be redesigned? Spacing or something, or? I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's gonna block the sun, and you can only have the spacing so wide, or you're gonna fall through it.
Yeah, it's not so much that, it's just, again, the commission's supposed to be addressing additional work in resource areas, which this is, so that's why I'm pointing it out. If the commission wishes to approve it, that's your call.
But all the work is outside of the 30-foot no-work zone, correct?
That's correct.
Well, no, it's not correct, because it's actually in the coastal bank, so
Well, okay.
in a
so
resource area.
30-foot, right, we have a 30-foot no activity line from the beach.
So this is a little bit, you know, odd, because you have more than one resource area.
It would be this area here.
Right. 30-foot is a 30-foot. It's still outside.
I'm
of that.
surprised there's no path going down to the dock. Just my comment, I was surprised not to find a walkway.
Uh-huh.
So we're talking the deck and we're talking steps with a concrete pad.
Concrete pad around
Around the steps.
the steps. Still way up, away from the 30-foot.
So, and you're right, I misspoke earlier, the 2x4 concrete pad, so that would add another 8 square feet. So we're up to 16.
Well, it's our decision, board. Somebody has to say something, either that we continue, ask for a redesign, or we accept it as presented.
Well, what are the negative impacts if we accept it? And I was kind of asking Dave this, and Dave,
Basically gonna be like
what's the issue, you know?
It's just more infrastructure within the flood zone. So anytime you're approving more work in the flood zone, there's potential for more damage or more debris field if we do get a flood situation. So that's part of it. And just looking at the town's wetland bylaw. So that's really it. Again, if the commission feels comfortable with it, then that's fine.
Thanks.
Here's a picture of the back side of the house. What you'll see is this will be extended off the new dwelling, coming into the area that I highlighted in a pen.
Usher.
Okay, we have not closed the hearing yet. Mr. Madden, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'd just like to speak on
Please.
behalf of the applicant and the
Please,
project.
please come forward so they can be heard.
One of the questions was asked by the commission about the impact on the coastal bank, and, you know, coastal bank provides a couple of different benefits to the environment. One is storm damage prevention, the other is providing a sediment source to a coastal beach in some instances. When a structure is proposed on a coastal bank, the structure can't jeopardize the stability of the coastal bank. So properly installed, these footings that would be holding up the deck would not jeopardize the stability of that bank in any respect. The loading on that bank and as it relates to the properly sized footing on the ground, would not disturb the structure of that bank. And with respect to storm damage prevention, it is in a coastal flood zone, so we're required to meet the construction standards by the FEMA construction standards. So there's another element there that helps prevent that damage from occurring. So just as a clarification on the resource area and the construction requirements necessary in the coastal flood zone.
Thanks.
David, does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Personally, they're out of the 30-foot. The house, the building, the structure is on the coastal bank anyway.
And keep in mind that this is going to be a full replacement cellar, so this whole area is going to be, right, a full...
Well, no, not exactly.
You
There's a small corner identified, where there's a crawl space, so it's a full basement now, and so that's all to remain. So there's just a small corner where there's a crawl space that will be excavated to...
Okay.
Yes, that's so, but right now, the majority of the foundation is going to remain untouched.
So you're not going to get...
Oh, it's a whole new foundation.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm wrong again.
It's-
So it's going to get a whole new foundation.
So that whole area, including the area that's going to be under the
Will be
deck...
temporarily-
It will be temporarily disturbed as they dig
Exactly.
and pull and...
Yes. So it even minimizes the footings, the sonotubes for the deck is even more minimized at that point.
Yeah. Do we have erosion control?
Yes, we do. The hay bales and silt fence, it's parallel to the septic system there.
Is it okay to put the footings that close to the tank?
Yeah, we've snuck them a little closer to the house. Normally they would be right on the edge, but, so we're about 3 feet back from the outside edge of the deck. There's a note to direct the contractor. Really, so the tank's not gonna be in the way, but, they're gonna need to, uncover the blower pipe and the vent pipe, and just make sure that they don't hit those. There's some small diameter pipes going over to the corner of the house because it's a fast unit in the tank. It's gotta aerate the tank. So that's the
That's
only,
something the Board of Health will have to,
well, the system's all in, so we just have to do this work without damaging it.
The sonic tubes,
Sauna tubes, yep.
thank you, those support,
Yeah, it's the
will they be dug by hand, or will you mechanically?
it might be a machine auger.
Even though it's awful close to some of that septic?
Sure, well, if you just excavate and find the edge of that tank and find those pipes first, and then set up the work.
Anything else? I'll take the picture back.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I guess we'll close, anybody else? If not, we'll close the hearing. Any other comments? Well, someone needs to close the hearing.
Motion to close the
I
hearing.
have a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor? The hearing's closed. Now it's our decision time.
All right, motion to grant. There's no stipulations. Did you put special stipulations on that, David?
no, not really.
Okay, motion to grant.
I have a motion to grant.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained.
Thank you very much.
Please see Dave before you start any of the work. Now, I used to spend time at that house. It used to be owned by a previous garden club member.
Marjorie?
Yes.
She's a very sweet lady.
Aha. Okey-doke. I
Thank
think
you.
we're-
This is a public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing may be held in room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts. On Wednesday, September 18th, 2019, at 7:15, on the notice of intent for Christopher Carlisle, I believe, care of McKinnon and Keith's Engineering, 23 Looks Mill Lane, Rochester, Massachusetts, for a new Title V septic system located on the Assessors Map 129A1, lots 99 and 100, 27 Agawam Lake Shore Drive, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Please identify yourself for the record.
I'm Sandy Keys from McKinnon and Keys Engineering, Rochester, Mass.
Thank you.
Okay. Sandy, I'm going to ask you to repeat the name when you get in front of the microphone so we have it for our recording.
Certainly. Once again, I'm Sandy Keys of McKinnon and Keys Engineering, Rochester, Mass.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Bichette will speak to the project.
This project site is at 27 Agawam Lakeshore Drive, and the project involves upgrading a septic system in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland along Agawam Mill Pond. The existing cesspool is to be replaced with a new Title V nitrogen-reducing septic system. The new leach field would be approximately 70 feet to the edge of the wetland. There are some minor grade changes proposed on the plan as shown. The existing trees that are not in the location of the leach field should remain in place as far as I'm concerned, because there's no need to remove them. Hay bales and silt fence would be installed between the work and the resource area. We did get a DEP number for the project, so I would recommend the approval of the project with the standard order of conditions, including the trees to be left in place.
Any comments, please?
Well, we're putting in a Singular 96600. It's a plastic unit because we have very difficult access to get behind this house, very narrow. And the components making up the leaching field are also plastic as well. We have to truck in a little bit of fill for the septic leaching area as required with these components. But other than that, the grade changes should remain the same, and as Dave says, the trees should remain intact. Other than there's one large one that is by the leaching area. But it should remain pretty well the same, other than a new septic.
Questions on the board?
No.
No.
Anybody in the audience would like to speak for or against this project? I'm seeing none.
Motion to close.
I have a motion to close.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed. Come on, somebody.
Motion to grant.
Second.
With the trees,
With the trees staying except for that one big one.
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you
So
very
I
much.
have a motion, I have a second, all in favor? Aye, opposed, abstained. See Mr. Bichette before you start the work.
We will. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next one,
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, on Wednesday, September 18, 2019, at 7:15 p.m. on the notice of intent for John McDonald, care of Spink Design, 59 Clay Street, Middleborough, Massachusetts, for a new Title V septic system located in Assessors Map 51, Lot 1003, 10 Progress Avenue, Wareham, Massachusetts.
thank you. Please identify yourself for the record.
Yes, my name is Thomas Rue. I'm the civil engineer that did the project.
Thomas? Okay, green cards? Or card? The technical components. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bichette. We'll read to the project first. He goes, then you. Okay.
The project site is at 10 Progress Ave, which is off of Cremisa Road. And the project involves upgrading a septic system in the buffer zone to wetlands and marsh along the Wewianick River at this lot. This is a very tight lot in terms of having space to work in. So the system is going to be fairly close to the wetlands, but it is just outside of 50 feet to the edge of the wetlands. There's really no significant changes proposed, but there would be a block wall around the leach field so that it could be slightly elevated where it has to sit. I don't really have a problem with the project in terms of what it is as far as the septic upgrade, but we did not get a DEP number for the project. I don't know if you've got that yourself. So for that reason alone, I would say we have to continue the hearing until the next meeting, but other than that, I don't really have a problem with the project.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, you pretty much summed it all up. It's just it's a septic system replacement in the septic system that is currently there on site. The soil absorption system is in the groundwater, which is why it did not pass the Title V inspection. So the new system, the bottom of the soil absorption system, will be elevated 4 feet above high groundwater.
Board of Health approve?
Actually, the meeting is going to be coming up for them next.
Okay. Questions?
I'm going to continue it anyway.
Yeah, I'm going to have to continue. Questions?
No.
So we are waiting for the, yes, we're waiting for DEP? DEP. We are going to have to continue this hearing, but is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak for or against this project? Seeing none, someone make a motion to continue?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to continue. Our next meeting date is 10/2. We should get something by then, shouldn't we? So, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. We're continued until 10/2. Thank you. Okay, we're now going to take a,
Motion to take
off the table for,
Mr. Neves off the table.
okay, I have a motion. I need a, I have a
Second.
second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. You're now up, sir. With the green cards that you found on the kitchen table. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Bichette will speak to the project.
Still have your plans?
Yes, we didn't return them, we still have them.
Yeah, there's a little drawing towards the back somewhere.
Okay, this project site is at 91 Glen Charlie Road, and this application is being filed in response to an enforcement order that was issued for unpermitted work in the buffer zone to Glen Charlie Pond, which involved landscaping work by removing grass and placing beach sand, paving within the buffer zone and also paving in the buffer zone to the pond. Existing vegetation was removed and beach sand was brought in to convert an area to a sandy area right up to the pond. Paving work was also done in the buffer zone to the pond to pave the driveway and to create a paved path and an area to locate a hot tub. The paved area for the hot tub is between the house and the pond. A machine was brought in to do some of this work. And I just had a question of how that machine got to the site in the back, because it is limited to get in there. Maybe it was able to come down the side of the house where the driveway is. But in terms of the project, I would recommend that paved area of the path in the area where the hot tub is be removed and returned to pervious area, and that there be a stone drainage trench of some sort put in place to take runoff from the driveway. And I also just had a question as to whether or not the leach field for the septic system was paved over, or was that originally paved over, or has it not been paved over at all?
It's always been the same as it is now. I've never, all I have is the sewer. I've never had any access to anything else.
So
when they come to do the septic, they just open the cover and drain it.
Right, okay, so that's what I was asking. So it was paved before and you just paved over existing pavement? Is that what you're saying?
It's the same as it was.
Okay. So that was just a question relative to the system and whether or not that was the case, if that is acceptable as far as the Board of Health goes, and then I don't have a problem with that. But I do have the recommendation, as I said, to remove some of that paving material as previously stated at the site, and I'll let the applicant speak to the situation.
I had no idea because I called up before I had anything paved, and they said, I called this town hall. They said I didn't need any permit for paving at all, so I didn't know about they told me I didn't need a permit. And I have information from the town hall, the guy that's down there does the permits for building. I think his name is Dave too, I'm not sure. But he told me I wouldn't need a pavement permit to do any of that. So I didn't know about that in the first place. The other thing is, like I stated before, they had their water drainage from they have a sub pump coming right from their full-size cellar that has a sub pump, and it was pumping right onto my property, which caused smell, and it was moldy, and the water was going
Okay,
right.
that's outside of what we're looking at right now, so.
Well, that's the reason why I put some sand.
Because sorry, please, no comments. Is there anything else you'd like to add regarding the placement of the path and the pavement under the hot tub?
Yeah.
Now, did you do, how much of preparation of the ground, or did you just lay down hot tub?
No, there was
patch.
just, the guy was paving 2 houses over. I asked him if he could pave.
So there's no prep underneath of this, it's just laid on top of the soil that was there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Anything else you'd like to add?
Just that I apologize for not knowing the law, and any future permits that I need or anything like that, which I don't think that will happen, I would definitely want to comply with the law. I'm sorry about what happened. My neighbors have been very vindictive toward me.
No comment on that,
I
please.
have evidence of what they've done makes what I did look.
That's not what we're here for,
I
but
know,
thank
but-
you. Okay, is there anything else?
That's it.
Okay, questions on the board?
I reserve the right now.
You will comment later? All right. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak for this project? Anybody who would like to speak for the project? Anybody who'd like to speak against the project? Please come forward and identify yourself one at a time. And only keep your comments to the project that's on the table, which is the placement of the hot tub for the path, hot patch or paving for the path and the area under the hot tub. Is there anything else?
And the placement of the sand.
And the placement of the sand. That is the limit of what we can discuss.
Hi, my name is Rita Earl.
Okay, Rita, please have a seat.
Hi, my name is Terry Bunker.
Terry? Thank you. Your comments?
My comments are that what he is saying isn't exactly true about the paving. I have pictures of before he paved, and there was no pavement there whatsoever,
No pavement where? On the driveway?
the driveway. May I show you the pictures?
It was all stone, white
It-
stone.
Oh,
That's
there
what's
was,
paved over white stone.
okay, so you did pave,
Over
over.
the stones.
okay,
but had no
beyond the
access.
path, I'm sorry, beyond the pathway and under the hot tub?
No.
You also paved the driveway?
No, the
I'm sorry,
driveway
confused.
I paved.
Okay,
but
it was-
over the stone.
Okay,
Nothing over anything else.
but that pavement was outside of our, would we have needed approval to do that paving?
It's 97 feet.
Some of it we would have, some of it would have been outside the 100 feet.
It's 97 feet to the front of my house, to the water.
Okay, so Rita, your comments is that he paved the driveway, placed pavement over the stone?
Yes.
Okay,
Could I just ask one quick
Yeah,
question
please.
about this? Where is the leach field for the septic system? Do you know where it is?
You mean by the leach field, that the pipe runs from the bathroom to the septic system?
Right, it goes into a tank, and then the
So,
tank goes to a leach
It's
field.
probably 10 feet right in front of the, between where the sewer system, the cesspool is, and my house. So it's, because it's only 20 feet there, so it's very short,
Right, so,
short distance.
so on a septic system, typically, there's a septic tank, and then there's a leaching field where the effluent leaches into the ground. So my question is was that area under the stone, or do you not necessarily know where that is?
I would say it's probably under the stone, since it's such a small, we're talking about 0.2 acreage.
Right.
It's so small there, I mean, it has to be right over there somewhere, because the property is so small.
Right, so that's one reason why I was asking about that, because not all septic systems were put in place or designed to be paved over, you know what I mean? So that's why I was asking.
Yeah.
But that's something the Board of Health would have to address. I just wanted to bring that up because I wasn't sure what
I have
existed
had
there.
no issues with my septic system at all. I don't even have to empty it for 2.5, 3 years. I only emptied it once in 4 years.
Right, so as far as the paving though goes, you've created more impervious area that potentially could drain towards the pond.
Well, like you said, I don't need a permit now, I know, within 100 feet. So the front of my house is like between 96 and 7 feet from the water. So most of, 99% of the pavement I paved was out of the compliance of a permit.
Okay, the only issue is if you pave an area that drains into a wetland, okay, that still has to be accounted for. That's why I put in the recommendation to put in some sort of a stone trench so that the water would drain into that versus
Right.
rushing down, but that's fine, okay.
But if you look at the plan, you'll see that there's a lot that's not paved in front where the trees are and the bushes.
Right.
And even in front of my house, I left a good spot there for gardening and the water drainage. And under my house is all sand and all the way back is all sand. As I haven't had any real issues about anything like that.
All right, sorry,
Okay.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to
That's
clarify
right.
that, so this.
Rita, is there anything more
Questions?
anything more you wanted to add? Just that, the note here says it was paved over in 2016? Is that what reading that?
That's when I moved there, yeah,
Oh, so-
early 16.
Is there anything else that is being addressed here tonight as to what happened on his property?
Yes.
As far as taking out all the dirt, soil, grass, arborvitae trees, and part of my yard, and putting up a fence on it?
Well, that's all part of the discussion. That's what we're discussing right now. Yes. So if you have a question about that, you can bring the question up.
I've made a list of things here that has happened. He brought in heavy equipment onto the property on May 24th. He dug up at least 6 arborvitae trees, perfectly healthy ones down near the water. And then he removed all the soil and grass out of his yard. And 2 feet onto our property, he dug up all the soil and grass, and he ripped the roots to our trees. I have pictures of that, too. I'm really concerned. Those trees are over 50 years old. Then he backfilled with truckloads of sand. He dumped sand on the roots of those trees.
Okay.
I don't know what that's going to do.
Rita, I have a question. Ken, where were these trees and grass that they say were removed? Were they between your house and the pond?
They're on my property.
No, I'm asking where were they
The
located?
trees.
The trees that
There
the-
was not 6, there was a couple of.
Regardless.
Okay, all right.
Where were the trees that were removed? Between you and the pond? Your house and the pond?
You mean the arborvitaes?
Yes.
Those were on my neighbor's side that they've been complaining since
Yep.
I moved there.
Okay.
That they didn't want there, and they were
What-
dead.
I'm trying to find where they were located on your
They were
property.
on the right side,
They were on the,
not on her property side.
they were on the edge of the house. They weren't,
Right-hand side, yes.
they weren't in between the house and the beach area.
Yes,
So I would think
show you in a picture.
in here. Okay.
You can point it
I
out.
can
Yeah.
show you a picture if you'd like.
Rita, anything more to add while we're looking at a picture?
He put up a fence on our property. It's a 6-foot fence, approximately 30 feet.
And was that, do you know whether or not that was permitted? I mean, that's outside of what we can discuss, other than within certain amount of feet of the waters.
Well, he had destroyed the property to actually, her property to actually put in the fence.
And has your
the-
property been repaired?
No, the fence still remains.
Is a fence, oh, sorry, that's outside of us.
Yeah,
There's no-
I discussed this matter before, that if there's an issue of a property line,
Right.
that's got to be dealt with between the
Differently.
property owners. We can't speculate on the property line issue, okay?
What do you want done for the property, for the grass?
All I'm asking is that we have the property restored to the
What
state that
could
it
be
was in.
restored? I didn't do anything.
And we'd like for that fence to be removed off of our property.
You'd have to remove it to be able to restore the property.
She had her fence.
Yeah.
Sorry. Wait a minute, I'm trying to understand. Is the fence, on whose property is the fence right now?
Mine.
It's
Like it was
physically on your
surveyed.
property?
Yes, ma'am. I have pictures.
Now, is this something that becomes before the planning,
Because she said my dog was.
the development? Who can we send them to for the dispute over ownership of the land this fence is on?
Well, he had claimed he had permits and
But
had
told us-
surveyed.
But wait a minute, permits is one thing, but on not doing it on your property is another thing.
Right, the whole matter of the property line, again, that's not something the town's going to be able to decide on. That's something that the owners have to get a survey done and
We had 2
determine.
different surveys on it. It was 2 different surveys done, one from them and one for our surveyor.
Right, and
They
so.
didn't coincide exactly.
So, again, whatever the survey comes back to is going to have to be a decision or a discussion between the two property owners. And if it ends up becoming a court matter, that's between you folks. It's not something that the commission can involve themselves with.
Just once we're worried about those trees, because they dug a trench quite a few feet deep
Well, the
and clipped the
damage-
roots
No,
of the
The
trees.
damage to the trees
not
have
true.
already been done.
There's no damage at all. Zero.
She has pictures of the
Oh.
roots clipped and everything,
What?
so.
Wait a minute, let's see those pictures, because there's just so much we
Trees are
can do.
doing,
So you said you had 2 surveys done by
Sand
2
was
different
taken out, of that
two
side
different
where the-
parties, did surveys, and
My mom had done the survey.
and you had surveys done?
yes,
And the result was not the same?
no.
These are the pictures.
But
We've never seen the survey. We've asked numerous times.
This is all the blacktop ones right over to my property. That's all blacktop now, this whole front yard,
Okay.
right over to my property. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
the grass and all the trees before we removed it.
Were the arborvitae trees on your property or his?
No.
On his,
The neighboring property on the other
okay.
side. This is our property here.
Mm-hmm.
This was his grass, this was our lawn, and this was a nuisance fence to keep his dog off of our property.
It was a fence, okay.
Okay, and now this.
I'm sorry, Mr. White? You can't hear her? Okay, here, no, here. Speaking to the microphone.
This is now what he did with all the property. This is the machinery he brought down. And there was a tool that he used to shred.
You want to come over and take a look at this too?
These are 5 or 6 houses on my side.
Oh, wait a minute, one at a time. So we're listening to Rita.
Okay, this is the property, his property here.
See, this is the fence that existed?
That was my fence my little fence that I put up to keep his dog off of our beach. This is the machinery he brought in and ripped up all the soil and grass from his yard. This is our property here. There's the machinery there, and there's a tool that he used to shred the roots. This is our property.
Never did no tool.
Actually, where my fence is still 2 feet back from the property line. Property line is
Isn't it
here.
ironic?
This is the survey we had. This is all the roots he tore up. And this is when he was putting in the fence post. There's a guy down there hacking at the roots and had clippers clipping the roots to those trees. This is we had it surveyed, and these are the markers right up to my bushes in the front yard. This is the side of his house here. This is how much property he has. That's the side of his house. Here is his
16
fence.
feet of waterfront. That's it.
Here is his fence here. This is our property line. This is his house. So this is all our property here. And there again, we had it surveyed on July 3rd, and before I finished paying the surveyor, he was ripping out the surveyor markers.
Do you have a copy of your survey?
Kenny, do we have a copy of the survey?
I don't have it with me, but I have one.
Who did your survey?
I'm not sure about who did it, but I have it. I don't think they should be laughing like that. I have a survey. That's not right for them to be laughing like that. I have a survey. It's not funny.
No.
It wasn't required to bring it.
Well,
I mean, that stuff.
I don't
gonna be
understand why
on-
2 surveys can give us 2 different results.
I know I haven't done anything to the property.
I'm sorry, Mr. White, we can't hear you, so, not me. Yeah, can you wait, can you sit down and let Rita continue to show us this, and then we can ask you to comment on hers? Okay?
Trees on her beach.
Okay.
Okay.
But she's here talking about
Uh,
a root.
I'm going, okay,
Okay, these go back to the surveying markers down beside the house. Like I said, this is his
so this
property.
gas line is even over property line. If I'm looking at that correctly, the gas meter is over.
Almost, yes.
No, it's not.
It looks like it is,
Okay,
because this
so-
is on the other side.
So there's barely space to walk between his house and your property
There
line?
probably is none.
Okay.
It's very close.
It's probably 8 to 10 inches. And our property line runs right down to this marker, right down to the water.
Okay.
It's a straight line, as you can see right here.
So damage was done on what you perceive to be your property in order to put in the fence? And you're saying the fence is even on your property based on this survey that was
Yes,
done?
ma'am.
2019?
July 3rd.
Yep, okay. Okay. But your pictures show that he removed all of the vegetation between the front of, the back of his house and the pond, correct? He removed all the vegetation between?
Yes. Yes, between the back, his deck, all the way down.
Was removed?
It was
Which
removed.
is what these pictures represent?
I had a lot
Okay.
of beachfront
Okay.
too.
Thank you.
He has the pictures.
Yes,
to prove
I
it.
have copies.
Yeah, no, hang on to that. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I mean, this is beyond, okay.
Before this meeting, he had,
You can have a sit, so we need you on the microphone. Yep, yep.
Oh, I actually, because it happened to me, I'll say it. Before the meeting, Ken had spoke with me and basically said if we could end all this if.
Sorry, I don't want to hear that. It's nothing to do with the
But it had to
particular
go
hearing.
with this meeting
It
tonight.
actually does, because he told her to tell me not to show up at this meeting.
That's
What?
not,
Oh,
sorry,
my
that's
God.
not what I want to hear. That's not
Sorry.
the purview of our particular
Okay.
commission. We're here to only talk about the wetland violations that have occurred, not any conversation.
Anything else? Anything else?
Anything else?
Think of anything?
And you had addressed the runoff from the driveway?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, that's going to be
Okay.
addressed.
Well, now that he's got this whole blacktop driveway, the runoff has come.
Yeah, we're talking about, we're
fix that.
talking about having a stone drainage system to put in order to accommodate the runoff of the blacktop. So we've talked about that as one of the requirements that we'll be looking for. Okay?
He really has.
But I
no-
don't know, about the placement of the fence, that's nothing to do with this particular commission. We can't say, speak to that. That's between your two parties as to who has the right survey or whatever, but anything else you want to add that we can discuss here for conservation? Thank you for the pictures and thank you for your time.
Thank
you.
you.
Is
for
there
your time.
anybody else? Is there anybody else like to speak for this, against this project? Okay, Ken, you're up. You want to talk about the pictures you just given us?
Well, I know it doesn't have it, the driveways are, you could see all those driveways are within 3 or 4 or 5 houses, left and right. They are more pavement in those than what I have. Like I said, I have a 0.2% of 1/10 of an acre in front of my house. It's very small. Those other driveways are much larger than mine, and you could see the pictures.
Okay. The question I have to ask you is, how much clearing of vegetation did you do between your deck and the pond edge?
10 feet,
10 feet?
yeah.
And how much of that, and you removed it how? With machinery?
Yeah, I didn't know about having that because the trees were dead, and I asked the guy if he was working up the street,
Sorry, no more comments in the back, please.
and I asked him if he could, what it would take to take these dead,
Well,
Trees that were dead
Being
up.
the arborvitae out?
yeah, they were all, and my neighbor to the right where I had those trees, I left some of them, but the ones that were gone were the ones that were closer to the
I'm really
water.
talking about the vegetation, the
Okay.
grass,
All
the
right,
the
so there was
loam,
no
all
real
that
grass,
was
it was
removed.
weeds.
But it was, okay, green vegetation with
Okay.
roots in the ground and
No, I mean,
loam.
it
I
was
mean,
weed.
And you
I only took out about that much,
only took out an inch?
yeah.
Not the pictures I saw.
Well,
That's
down
heavy
on that right-
machinery
no,
in
on
there.
the right-hand side, where her cellar has been flooding onto my house, where I show you the
Yep.
pictures, it's been doing that for years. And so it was green and mossy, and I think it had a odor to it.
Okay, so-
I had to take a little more on that side off.
Okay, so we have, I believe the issues is that we have a driveway that was paved over a pervious, made it impervious. We have a path that was installed without approval. We have a area under a hot tub that was done over to make it impervious. We have soil and vegetation removed between the house and the beach. What else?
I think that's
it.
That's the issues.
And the sand the sand that I brought in, about 4 yards, has made such a big difference on the water, coming down. It's absorbed the water that was coming off.
It's hard to
Or-
believe it didn't wash away without proper, never mind, that's another
It
comment.
hasn't. Matter of fact, Mr. Bichette came after a storm and but he said it was because it was dry, that's why it absorbed it. but he came the next day after a storm, and rained all day, and it was dry.
Okay, how much sand did you add to the front, to the house, between the house and the pond? How much sand?
I'd say around 4 yards or so, I'm not sure exactly. Like I said, it's about 10 feet from where I had the beach, and I didn't touch the beach area, to my hot tub, which is right in front of my deck.
Okay.
It's only a 2-man hot tub, it's very small, it's a small pad.
Have you been to the site?
I have, it's one site I didn't get to. I got to all the others. This one I did not get to.
Yeah, before, if, it might be advisable to see it before you come to any final decision on what you wish to do with it, because it is, not a lot of space there between the
So that's
the
the
house and the
space.
pond, so you can easily see the area, and that, maybe it would help give you a better idea of what's what there.
I want to comply with the council, and I would be willing, because I'm leaving pretty soon, and I want to finish this. I know
Understand.
But what I'm saying is, I'm willing to take the pad and the walkway out on the side, if that would be enough. Because,
No, probably not.
well,
We'll wait to see what the
well,
board
then
has to
we
say,
have to
but
maybe have to have another appeal or bring it somewhere else, because I don't think it's fair if you do any more than what I'm
I
trying
can't
to.
hear what the people commenting in the back.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep them out. I'm trying to stop them from commenting. If
That's
they
what I'm saying.
continue to comment, I'm sorry, I'm not hearing them do that. Because when I hear them, I ask them not to. So the recommendation is that the members of the commission visit this site and take a look at it for themselves as to what has happened between the house and the road, and between the house and the pond, and on the edge of the house where the pad and the path has been added, as to where, I'm concerned about the runoff for the paved area.
But every single house on that is paved worse than mine. I mean, way more than what I have for
Yeah,
mine.
but yours wasn't paved to begin with. You added the paving. It was pervious, which
But
allowed the
I
water
don't
to
need a
drain
permit
down.
if I'm 100 yards out, I'm 100 feet from the pond. So we're talking about 2 feet.
But we would have said something about the runoff that was caused by having it paved.
But I didn't need to get a permit to have it paved.
I'm not, okay, understand that, totally understand that.
I just have a question for Dave. Dave, what would you like to see, what do you think should be done here? I mean, I got a lot of information. I'm getting a little confused at what's going on here.
Right, well, as I recommended, I think that the pathway and the area where the hot tub is should be removed. And I think there should be some setup put in to handle runoff from the driveway. So that could be in the form of a stone trench that's so many feet, 2 or 3 feet wide, so that, and so many feet deep, so when runoff comes off of that, it goes into that versus traveling down the property to the pond. So that would be my recommendation. We do have the issue of vegetation being converted to sand. That's up to the commission, I think, to determine if you feel as though that's something you want to see reversed. But that's,
This is 16 feet across from this fence to that fence. That's the sand we're talking about right there.
Okay,
How far from the corner is this? Is it on the same side? It's on Spectacle Pond, right?
no, it's right
No?
on Glen
That
Charlie.
is on Spectacle Pond.
But it's right
Yeah.
on Glen Charlie Road.
It's on Glen Charlie Road on the right-hand side,
That's
Yeah.
correct.
just before the corner, right?
Oh, no.
you think you recognize the house?
No, I think I recognize that house.
Yeah, that house.
That
Well-
house is down a few, like 4 houses
Okay.
down further from mine, so I'm closer.
Yeah, that's,
So I guess the recommendation
that
is
house.
that we do take our time to go look at that site and then continue this for until October 2nd?
yep.
Any other questions?
I just have one. How much soil did you remove, actually? It looks like quite a bit from that backhoe pictures.
Not a lot. I don't think it was a lot. It was the tree, it was.
Wait, you're going to have to come to the mic, or I'm going to be yelled at.
Yes. It's the dead arborvitae's that I really wanted.
So
Take out.
there's a lot of
Because they
disturbance
would-
there. You dug it up and then you put the original soil back and then put
Yes.
sand on top of it?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. But, I'd really I'm going to be leaving for Florida, and I wanted to get this done before I left.
Totally understand. So, commission, what would you like? Visit the site?
Yeah.
So I ask for a continuance? Need a continuance? Someone make a motion to continue.
Motion.
Yeah, wait a second. Rita, you had your hand up. Was there something you wanted to add? Please come forward to the mic.
He's constantly saying that the arborvitae were dead. They were not. They
Okay,
were
that's, okay, thank you.
The other neighbor will admit that they were
Yeah,
dead.
but
They're
dead or
gone.
not, they're gone.
now anyway.
Whether they're dead or whatever, they're gone. The root systems are gone. The soil was disturbed. Okay,
He's also said that it was only 10.
by the mic, please.
Oh, sorry. He said that it was only like 10 feet of grass. It had to be closer to 30.
Well, we're going down and take a look at what's between his house and the edge of the pond and how long that is.
Okay.
When we do our
Remember, I
visit.
had my own beach before, too, before I moved but he has the pictures of, there was 20, good 20 feet
Okay.
of sand there before.
But I
So
saw
you're
the-
talking from that 20 feet to where I have it is very short distance.
But you put sand on top of the loam. You return the dirt to this area, right? And then you put sand on top of it?
Yes.
So if I was to dig down the sand for a couple inches, I should find dirt and not sand?
Well, it's all sand. You look under my house, it's all sand.
No.
It's all sand. That's
I'm
what it
sorry,
is.
the pictures I saw were dirt was being moved. It was brown. It
Well,
wasn't the
it's
tan.
brown or whatever it
Okay,
is.
okay.
It's dirt.
So, do I have a motion to continue?
Yeah.
I have a motion.
Yeah.
I have a second. We're going to continue until October 2nd. All in favor? Opposed, abstained? We need to go look at it, so we will bring you back here on October 2nd and
It's always
continue
been
the
sand,
hearing.
Dave.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
always
you.
been sand there. Never been nothing but sand.
So this becomes a major, I go and take pictures. I couldn't get to it with everything else going on. Okay, I believe that is done. Now we go back to our continued hearings. Thank you. Thomas J. Pattern, how do you help me? Parento. Thank you. Yep. Okay, we back to continued hearings. All right. This is at 15 over Jordan Road. Oh, the big wall. Okay. He's going to give us nice short plans so I can throw the old one out. This was that 400-foot, 460-foot wall
Oh, yeah.
that they wanted to make it sloped as opposed to upright.
We got two here, don't we?
Okay.
No, they're stapled. I see.
So,
Two pages, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
please identify yourself for the record.
I'm Bill Madden from GAF Engineering on behalf of Tom Parento.
Okay, and Mr. Bichette will read to the project.
The project site is at 15 over Jordan Road, and the project involves the reconstruction of an existing seawall along a coastal bank in the buffer zone to salt marsh and within a coastal flood zone.
Nice and high.
The existing stone seawall, approximately 460 feet in length, is to be removed, and a new wall proposed in its place. At the last meeting, we had a discussion about the style of the wall that was proposed, being a vertical wall, and we asked for the engineer to go back instead to design a sloped wall because this is within a velocity flood zone. We do have a revised plan now that shows a sloped stone wall instead of the original vertical wall. So that's more in line with what should be put in an area like that. The wall does need to be replaced because it is in disrepair. We do have a DEP file number, so with that in the revised plan, I would recommend the approval of the revised plan to allow the sloped stone wall to be put in place of the existing wall. You okay?
I'm going to sneeze.
Yeah.
Bless you.
So with the standard condition and also the condition that no work be closer to the marsh than the existing wall, so that there's no alteration of salt marsh as part of the project. So that may require eating back into the property somewhat, which would be required for a sloped wall anyway. So with that, I would again recommend the approval with that condition.
Bill, any comments, please?
No, not at all. We did show the stone wall. It is detailed. The only comment that I'd like to bring up is that one area where we're moving those slabs.
Yes.
I don't know how you want to condition that, but we know we want to do some type of restoration over there once those slabs are used. And I think that if you look to the far right on the plan, sheet number 1, way in the far right where we show the stairs, there was a set of stairs that were down there. We'd
Yes.
like to use that granite or that stone to integrate it with the revetment for some steps.
Yeah, that's fine. I have no problem with that as long as, which I'm sure it may be in the detail, that there's something put behind it to make sure that sediment doesn't come through it.
Yeah.
But other than that, using the granite would be fine for that purpose.
And I think we'll have to probably just work a little bit as to how we want to restore that corner when we take those pieces out. So whatever you want to put in your conditions about that is fine with us. I mean, we're flexible there. The applicant's pretty open to doing whatever is the best thing to do for the land.
Once we move that granite, won't the land just fill in on itself? I mean,
Well,
what they are,
I think
there are a lot of
that's,
slabs.
I think that's what he's saying,
Yeah.
is we might have to put some erosion control blanket or something on the slope until vegetation can establish. So you might, on the upland part, plant some beach grass on that
Yeah,
slope.
exactly.
And then if there's any area below that, looks like the marsh is pretty close to it, so I don't think you really need to do too much there. It'll just sort of fill itself in.
Yeah, but I mean, I just want to express the desire to be flexible with you guys, whatever you would like us to do there, we're,
Sure.
willing to participate in that effort.
Okay, erosion control, upland plant beach grass where those blocks are, granite blocks, reuse the granite blocks for the steps. No work closer to the salt marsh, which means you may have to take some land.
Yeah, I think that as where those steps are, the salt marsh, I tried to delineate it a little more graphically on this. In that far southerly corner, the salt marsh comes right up to the edge.
Yes, it does.
So we're gonna have to, I think that really we'll probably have to put some vertical barrier in the ground before we dig and remove the wall so that we don't encroach into the salt marsh. So, if you wanted to condition it in that manner also to provide whatever means necessary to limit that, that's just a suggestion. That might work for you.
Okay.
What do you think is going to be used to pull out the existing wall? Just a small mini excavator, or do you envision something bigger than that?
I'm thinking that it could be something a little larger than a mini excavator because it is relatively wide open along that beach. And I think, we're gonna need a sizable machine to put those toe stones in place too. So I think it'll be a little bit bigger than a mini excavator. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
So-
That's fine. I'm just curious as to what was envisioned for it. But yeah, for the stone, for the other stone, you'll definitely need something bigger for that.
Yeah, but we should be able to do everything from the upland side anyway, no need to be on the beach.
So all machine work from upland side.
Right. And would you envision pulling out a section and then stoning it and sort of working your way down versus wholesale ripping the whole thing out and then starting over?
I think that's the practical way of doing it. Maybe what another condition could be is that we provide you with a methodology of construction, how we're gonna do that for your approval, and then we can decide whether we're gonna work in 50-foot increments. I don't think it's wise to take it all out. I think the only way you could quickly do it is just by dumping, stone, and I don't think that's what we really want to do there. I think we want to
just
place it.
doing it in sections is gonna be the way to go.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay.
Boy, I have a lot of conditions. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, I got 5 so far.
Yeah.
Could very well be. Any questions on the board?
And just one other thing, we are going to be coming back probably with, some access to the water from the land. And I think that one of the piers where the stone and mortar piers are, my desire there would be just to extend that over the revetment, over that sloped area and land that on the ground, as opposed to building something into that revetment. So that's what my thought was when we put this plan together. So we just, there's a small rectangular piece there that we're just gonna take out and not replace it and see where we go when we file the dock permits.
What are you going to do with the stones that are in the big pylons that are already in the water? You're not going to... Those are staying, but they're not going to be used for anything right now. The
piers?
No, the concrete support structures that are already in the water, that had a pier had been on them?
Yep.
They're just going to stay there, right?
Yeah, because I think that's what we're looking to utilize those again when we,
Somewhere down the line?
yes.
Okay, because right now, there is a pretty badly shaped, badly conditioned pier down by the granites. That's going to stay, or are you removing that at that time?
That'll all, anything that we do for access will need to be new. I know there had been a Chapter 91 license issued for those piers, but it never got constructed, so technically it's void. So we have to deal with Chapter 91 on that, and obviously we'll be back here prior to that.
All right. Is there anybody in the audience would like to speak for or against this project? Seeing nobody in the audience, really, except for a couple hanger-ongers. If anybody's satisfied, I'll take a motion to close.
Motion to close.
I have a motion to close.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye, opposed, abstained. Okay, next, folks, I need somebody to
All right.
say,
Motion to grant with the
5.
5 stipulations that were stated.
Do I need to repeat them?
Yes.
I need to repeat, may I repeat them?
You have to repeat it?
Okay.
Well, you can, if you can repeat it. You got it written down, I don't.
No work closer to the salt marsh. All machine work will be done from the upland side. You will provide a methodology of construction so that we know it's done in sections. We'll reuse the granite for the steps. And the erosion control, where the granite will be removed, there will be an erosion control. And on the upland side, they will plant beach grass when the blocks are removed. I think that's it. Did I miss anything, Bill?
No, those are the things that I think that
Okay.
we need to work on.
Ms. Bichette, did I get him all? He's writing fast.
Yes, I got it.
Okay, so that was the motion.
Yep.
I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained. Of course, see Mr. Bichette before you start anything.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, one more, okay, next one. I have one more continued hearing Jonathan and Teresa Nettleman. Is that, anybody here for that? Was that continued?
That project was one where we were waiting for a plan revision, which I did get from the engineer. So it's up to the board if you want to review it and approve it, even though they're not here. We do have the green cards. We have a DEP file number, and I can go over it.
Are you good with it?
I'm good with the revision, yeah, so.
Okay, so moved.
Show people what we're looking at here.
All right. I trust your judgment.
This is the one you found on Franklin Street.
Yes.
This is your revised. So this project is at 8 Franklin Street, and it involves the construction of a deck on an existing house that is in the buffer zone to a coastal bank that exists on the other side of the street from where this house is. The house is very close to the street, and just on the other side of the street, you have a coastal bank and beach and salt marsh. So they've kept the new deck just outside the 30-foot. So with that, as I said, I would recommend the approval based on this revised plan, and now that we have a DEP file number.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Wait a minute, anybody here in the audience want to speak, any questions? None. Anybody want to speak to or for the project? None.
So moved.
We close the hearing. I have a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
I have a second to close the hearing.
Motion to
What was it, a negative?
No, this is a notice of
No,
intent, so
okay,
standard
condi-
conditions.
notice to grant and the standard stipulations according to plan.
Okay. I have a motion. I need a second. I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. Done.
Boy, we're not done yet.
No, we're not done yet. Damn.
Come on, 5:30 comes early.
Okay. We have enforcement orders. Which one would you like to do?
Let's do these two.
Are you here for one of these, or you're just listening?
This is my first time here, so I got a thing, I don't know, to come here. My name is
Okay,
Lorna.
then why don't we,
Yeah, Lorna, August.
Lorna, why don't you come down and we'll take you out of order since you're nothing left, and make you sit through us.
So you want me to give you guys this?
No?
No, we have it.
You may have a seat, and Mr. Bichette will speak to the
Hello.
enforcement order. The gentleman in the back, why are you here?
Enforcement order.
Okay.
So this site is on West Street, and what happened was that the backyard of the property was cleared, which is within a certain distance of wetlands, and some of it may have even actually been wetlands, which we had reviewed this site when a previous owner had it, and they wanted to have horses there. I don't know if you recall this or not, but they were not allowed to clear up to a certain point. And I hadn't been back there for quite some time, but then visiting another site nearby, I noticed that the property had recently been cleared. And so that's why I sent a letter to Miss Augustin to come in to address the matter. So basically what it boils down to is if you're doing any work within a certain distance of wetlands or in wetlands, you first are supposed to have the commission's review and approval.
Okay.
And in my view, I think some actual wetlands were cleared, and obviously also within 100 feet of wetlands. So maybe you can explain what was done or why it was done.
Sure. Well, recently just bought the house October of last year. I didn't know it was a wetland property. I didn't actually understand what wetland was. I thought the wetland was behind the house, like past the yard. And what I did is I wanted to get the yard to be more clear and, just nicer. Because I do have 2 young kids, and they're in the ages between 6 and 8, and they want to play. But I couldn't let them play because there was so much stuff there, like plants, and they were in the way. And there was, the recent owner, like you mentioned, did have a horse, I heard, and she had a goat, she had chickens, and she offered me if I wanted the stuff, and I really didn't, because I have the 2 kids. I said, I just want my yard clean. So what I did is, after I purchased the home, I couldn't do the work because I had just moved in, so I waited till the weather was nicer, and I hired a landscape to come and clean it. So I did not know, I didn't understand. So when I got this, I was a little confused because I thought I was doing what I would do at my yard, but I didn't understand. So what I did is I did bring pictures of prior how it looked and then what it is now, if you would like it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Who is your landscaper?
Ray Kingston Enterprise.
Thank you. He should have known.
Duplicates or just?
He did mention something, and I didn't know I needed.
Wait a second. You need to speak to
Sorry,
the
I
mic.
need to
Yeah.
speak in the mic. I apologize. He did mention if I needed to let the town know, but I thought because it's the yard, I didn't have to. So he did mention something, and I said, no, you can come. I said it shouldn't be a problem, and then he came and he did the work, and then that was it. And then a few weeks later, we got the letter.
Right, okay.
It's before and after.
And the recent owner left a lot of trash in the backyard, chairs and bottles, and it was tough. The kids couldn't go play in there because it was horrible, but.
Yeah, it's pretty thick.
What made you take before pictures and after pictures?
No, because I wanted to make sure I have the pictures how it looked before. Yeah,
It just
just
happened
to
to- yeah.
have them, so I could
Yeah.
see how the house looked then and now, like a remodel, to be honest with you.
How much of,
A lot of it's underbrush.
yeah. I don't see big trees.
There's a big tree in the middle. I didn't
That's
touch it.
still there.
Yeah,
I
that
didn't
tree's
touch
still
it,
there.
yeah. There's another tree, there's
But,
2 other
um,
trees,
Dave,
and there's another one further in the back. I
Where
didn't
does
touch
the
the
wetland
trees.
come into effect? I mean,
Well, it was kind of in this back area.
Where this-
Well, it would have been.
the edge
sort
of
in
those
this
trees,
area.
okay.
And then there's actual, real swampy wetland right behind that, if you.
Okay.
if
That's
you
what
go
I thought
back
a
there.
wetland was, like further back. So when I got the letter, I was like, wait a minute, there's a wetland there?
Yeah.
But I thought the wetland was
What do you-
further
Kate,
back.
what do you
Some of
recommend?
it did actually extend onto the lot. So what I think I would have to do is meet with her at the site and try to sort of re-evaluate where that line would
Sure.
have been. And maybe some of that may have to be allowed to be restored, you know?
Yeah,
Not continue to clear.
of course. And what would be the restoring?
Just stop
Probably-
mowing.
Probably putting some plants in there.
And
which
they're
we can-
growing, it is growing.
Yeah, so I'll see how it looks when we go there.
Okay, and
A
So,
lot of that stuff
do you
would
have
rejuvenate.
times available during the week that are good, or?
I'm available anytime. Just let me know. I will let my employer know, and if I have to leave at a certain time to meet with you guys, that's fine
So
with
Dave will
me.
meet you on the site.
Maybe come up and just give you a
Sure.
phone number?
And may I ask you in the future if, because I didn't know that I didn't know that would have come here. I thought, it's a yard, I need to get it done, let me make it look nice. Honestly, that's how I looked at it.
Right.
In the future, if I wanted to do a fence, would I be able to?
Well, those are the things
Future.
we can discuss,
Okay.
what you might have in mind, and I can explain what is okay or what might need approval. you know?
Approval, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And take your
If you
pictures
could just
back.
give me a phone number, that way I can call you. I'll give you my card, that way. Well, my number's on your letter, but I'll give that to you anyway. All right,
Thank you.
you.
No, thank you.
All right.
Have a good night.
Yep,
Two.
two. Okay, come on down. Your turn. Which enforcement order is this one?
I believe it's,
Are you Richard or Mark?
Mark.
Okay, Mark. 6 Sea Breeze Drive?
right.
Okay,
Yeah, so at this particular site, there's a patio that's been built right sort of near the marsh, maybe 8 to 10 feet from the edge of the marsh, which was not something we reviewed or approved or would have approved because it's too close to it. So that's really why you got the letter. There's, as far as any kind of patios or structures, there's a certain setback from the edge of wetlands that you can't build those things, and you're within that. So that's the reason why you got the letter. So maybe you can discuss that.
Okay, well, basically, it's, I mean, that house is probably like 50 years old, but I've owned it for the last couple of years, and there was a Boy Scout fire pit in that location with sort of the old flagstone, you know, the blue and some are red. So I just replaced it and made it like nice, but it's 10 by 10, and it's pervious. They're all mini cobblestones that are like that big with stone dust in between them. So it didn't enter my mind, you know, not that, ignorance is not an excuse, but there was a structure there. I fixed it up and replaced it, and, you know, kept it super small, just so the same kind of thing. It's, you know, sandy and bugs, and if you want to sit by the water, it gives you a chance to have a fire where it's controlled, whereas the old Boy Scout fire pit had no controlling, you know, so. Stuff was there, and you know, again, some of the other people tonight are always talking about the neighbors. Well, there's a lot of them out there in that neighborhood. It's an old campground, really, you know.
Yeah.
Sea Breeze.
Pinehurst.
This is the one that I said was near Don Hall's house.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The one, okay, Pinehurst.
So yeah, I actually, when I first saw it, I said, gee, that looks like it hasn't been there for so long. So I went and took a look at some aerial photographs from years before.
Yeah.
And there really was no structure like that there.
Well,
There
they had
was like
the
a
stones, like a Boy Scout fire
yeah, there was
pit.
like a fire ring that I did see, but not any kind of a patio setup.
Yeah.
So that's really the issue. So, you know, as far as my recommendation would be, is that would have to be removed and replaced further back into the site somewhere, because really we're not supposed to be permitting new structures like that close to the water or the marsh.
Is there any way around that? Is there something I could do to offset it, put in some low-growing blueberries or something? I just, it's a real focal point of what we've come down here for.
I understand that, but that has to be my recommendation just based on the regulations. You know, we would, if you were to come in and said, I'd like to do this.
Well, can I do that? Excuse me, I'm sorry. Can I do that, apply for it?
Well, you can do whatever you want as far as applying for it, but I would have to recommend that it not get approved. Because again, our regulations say no new structures within 30 feet of an edge of a wetland or a marsh or a coastal bank or anything like that. So that would have to be my recommendation.
How much space do you have between the house and this patio you built?
There's probably 30 feet.
So you could move it back?
We could move it back, but I mean, literally, if I brought the leading edge to the trailing edge, you know, it's 10 feet.
It seemed like there was a lot more distance than that to me there. It seemed like you had like 50 or 60 feet from the house to the...
It might be 20 yards, tops.
Yeah, that's like I'm saying, that's like 60 feet or so. So, again, I think if commission members might want to go take a look at it, but there's a lot of lawn behind it that this could exist in and be outside the 30 feet.
Right, well, there is. I'm not saying there isn't, but what would be, like, what's your criteria? If it's 15 feet further back, is it okay versus where it is? You know?
Well, it would have to be at least 30 feet back from where the grass ends, okay? At a minimum.
The high water mark.
Yeah, well, wherever the grass ends and the beach starts, you know, that may actually be above the high water mark. You know what I mean? The high water mark may not come up to that area all the time, maybe on a moon tide. But that's how it would have to be. But anything like that that's within 100 feet is supposed to come before the commission for review and approval. And nothing new within 30 feet is supposed to be allowed. So you could build it between 30 and 70 or 100 feet back in that other 70 feet, but right up on the water like that.
So you're looking for a RDA to build a new patio and a removal of the old one?
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
come
should happen.
and
Yeah.
bring it out of the 30 foot, which you say it's what, 10 foot back now?
It's closer than that. It's probably like 6 to 8 feet to the, where I would consider the land to drop off.
All
to the
right,
beach.
so basically, he's got to move that back at least 20 feet.
So, yeah, whatever distance it needs to be, so it's outside.
So it's outside the
Yeah,
30 foot.
feet, yeah.
Yeah, in file for it, that's all, and we'll go from there. He's going to have to file, he's going to have to come up with some kind of drawing or plan or something.
Right.
Do you understand what we're asking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just crank it back a little bit.
But does he know, you know how far to put it back, though? Are you gonna go
Well,
out there and
if
show
you're
him?
saying 30 feet, I mean, I'm capable to make that measurement. I just don't know whether it'll be
No,
worth
is
it.
it 30
I-
feet from where it is now, or 30 feet from the edge of the
30
wetlands?
feet from the edge of
The water?
beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know if it'll be worth it at that point. I mean, the beauty of it is to be able to be close to the water, and the way that property sits, you get back into the trees, and then you're in all the bugs, and especially this year. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to get bit this year.
No, I know.
Well,
And I
then-
know everybody wants to be right up on the water, but that's why we have to.
Are there
kind
any
of-
surfaces that you allow? Like some of these, I mean, I consider that a pervious surface, because the water does go right through it. But are there any surfaces that you allow that's that close to the water? I know some of these blocks literally have holes in them.
Yeah, not that close, regardless of what it's made out of. The intent is to not have development just keep encroaching closer and closer to the beach.
So you would have to have like one of these portable fire pit type things then, in order to, you know, like the ones like the copper frame or something like that, is that?
Yeah, or if you just, you know,
not a
if you had.
permanent structure?
If you had the existing simple fire ring made out of stones and you just put your chairs on the grass, that's okay, you know? The
Yeah.
fact is you built a patio there, that's the issue. If you just want to put your lawn chairs on the grass that exists there, that's fine, you know?
Yeah.
Low nitrogen fertilizer, you've heard that.
I heard that, yes, multiple times.
So maybe your
Let me
plan considers removing some of the trees or brush?
I'm sorry, ma'am?
Maybe your plan might include the removal of some of trees or brush if you're saying to move it back 30 feet, you're in some
No, ma'am,
wooded area.
it's a mature oak, I wouldn't touch it.
Okay.
That's the finest tree in that Pinehurst area.
One of the few or
Yeah,
or
there
only
isn't a
trees.
lot of vegetation.
No. Oh.
So, okay, well, I understand, it's just, if it's gotta come out, then basically it's gotta come out, and the
So
question is
it's
whether.
removal of the structure. You can have a fire pit there and then put lawn chairs around it.
Yeah, again, what I'm talking about is just a makeshift ring of stones that, you know.
I mean, one of the
Like the
things
Boy
not
Scouts
to-
used to have.
Or a portable unit, like you said.
As you know, it's very sandy down there, so getting grass to grow there is like impossible, you know, so it's more or less gonna be just a sandy area with a little bit of greenery poking through if we're gonna just have chairs that are brought out when people enjoy it, you know?
Yeah, I mean.
And I kinda thought, I thought it was a good thing to do because it does control some of the runoff and stuff like that, because it just doesn't grow, the grass there, it's always brown. You get a good month in the spring and that's it, you know?
Yeah, no, that's just the nature of sandy soils.
Right.
It's-
Yep.
That's how it is. But yeah, if we didn't have something in place, everybody would do what some of the people had done, you know, in the 50s and 60s and just carved everything right up to the edge of the
Yeah,
beach.
no, a lot of the neighborhood is like that. It's
Yeah,
true.
no, I know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of old development, and that's
Yeah.
just the way it is. You know, so we're trying to not encourage or allow that to continue.
Okay. All right, I understand.
All right.
I will get it out of there this fall, at some point in the next 60 days or so. Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You.
Since there's nobody here, can we go right down to certification of compliances?
I think that's all we have left.
Well, we
anyway.
had 2 enforcement orders, but there's nobody
Well,
here.
Yeah, those I just had on the agenda to update the commission. The first one, I'm supposed to be meeting with that owner at his site next Monday, so I have not met him there yet. Yeah, finally. And the second one, Mr. Carbone, I met with him today at his site. There's quite a bit of alteration there. He is going to have to do some restoration work, which he, you know, agreed to. I initially told him while we were there today that he was going to have to get hay bales in because he's got a lot of bare area that's running off towards the wetland. So he's going to do that over the weekend, and then we'll discuss
Okay.
restoration there.
Certification of compliances.
As far as those go, the first one, I'm recommending that be continued or just not dealt with tonight because there
Okay.
were some issues with that site that,
So Pillsbury's on hold.
and all the rest of them were okay. So you can run through
Diane and
them.
Edward Pet.
Motion to
Petty.
grant.
Payette, that was
Payette,
for,
I have a motion.
that was for
Second.
peer
I have a
construction.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
We're just going Jason Solette from 12 Grantston.
Motion to grant.
I have a motion. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
AD Makepeace, the first one.
Motion to grant.
Second.
I have a motion and all in favor.
Aye.
The second Makepeace on Charlotte Furnace.
Motion to grant.
I have a motion. I have a second, all in favor.
Aye.
Ashley, Charlotte Furnace Road.
Motion to
I
grant.
have a motion to grant.
Second.
Second, all in favor.
Aye.
Aye. And George Pinkston, Pinkstern.
Kingston, you got it right.
Yeah.
Motion to grant.
I have a motion, I have a second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things to sign. Until you sign 6 things, you can't leave.
Get out the stamp. We have a stamp with everybody's name.
I see stormwater bylaws are going to be on the town meeting floor. Are we going to be involved with those at all?
I hadn't heard.
Should we know them?
I think that's to do with the MS4 permit.
Yes, it is.
So that's just something that is required if the town's going to be in compliance with the MS4 permitting. So we'll get up to speed on that a little bit more
Okay.
before the meeting.
I saw Donna Bronk and mentioned she should be coming tonight. She hasn't, so we have nobody to interview for associate position.
Sounds
Probably
like
looked
she's
at the
not
agenda and
interested.
Said I'm not coming tonight.
Like last meeting. So if that's the case, can someone say magic words?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
9:17.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. White. We're done.
You got one